The sound that shattered my afternoon wasn't an engine, it was my dog's cry, a scream that meant a line had been crossed on my land. I spun around, my blood turning to ice. That sound didn't belong on my ranch. It was my girl, Juno, a Belgian Malinois, loyal and fierce. She didn't yelp, she screamed in pain, a raw, awful noise that cut through the calm. I dropped my tools and ran. Rounding the corner of the stable, I saw her. Juno was on the ground near the boundary fence, scrambling in the dirt, her left hind leg buckling, and standing over her, a man in a dark jacket with a cheap-looking badge pinned to the chest. HOA Security, it read. My stomach clenched. This was going to be bad. To understand why a stranger in a costume felt entitled to leap my fence and hurt my dog, you need context. My family's land, Whispering Pines Ranch, predates every subdivision for miles. Our boundaries are clear, our signs unambiguous. The Cedar Grove Estates HOA arrived later, their manicured lawns creeping right up to my fence line. And their president, Margot, decided from day one that my independence was a problem. She started with sweet talk about community integration. Then came the documents, fake surveys, altered maps, official-looking letters claiming my land fell under their control. It didn't. I provided the county records, the original homestead deed, the surveys that proved my ownership. I was polite but firm. You have no authority here. Stay off my property. She didn't like that. The smile vanished. My ranch became a liability. My fences were non-conforming. My livestock and dogs were potential threats. I repeated my position, sent formal notices, and posted fresh, even larger signs. I made one thing utterly clear. Trespassing would be met with the full force of the law. Apparently, Margot decided to test that promise. The fence the man jumped was marked with bright new signage. He had to have seen it. Juno did exactly what she was bred to do. She moved to intercept, to guard, and he struck her across the head with a heavy metal flashlight, twice. When I shouted, he turned slowly, annoyed, not scared, not sorry, just inconvenienced. Your animal is non-compliant, he stated, pointing at Juno as if she were litter. Aggressive behavior on HOA-adjacent property. It's violation. HOA-adjacent? The absurdity of the phrase made my vision sharpen. You climbed a posted fence, I said, my voice low. You're trespassing. You assaulted my dog. He puffed out his chest under that ridiculous vest. I'm authorized to enforce community standards. I looked back at Juno, trying and failing to stand, blood matting the fur above her eye. Something inside me solidified, cold and absolute. This wasn't about paperwork anymore. This was a man who believed a polyester vest granted him rights he would never have, and I was standing on my soil, facing the consequences he was too arrogant to foresee. I walked forward, each step deliberate, until I placed myself between him and Juno. I knelt. Her whole body trembled. One eye was swelling shut. She licked my hand once, a weak flicker of reassurance. I stood back up. You're finished, I said. Leave, now. He smirked. Your dog attacked an officer. That's a serious offense. What officer? I asked, my voice steady. You're a trespasser who just committed animal cruelty. Get off my land. He took a step toward me. Not a rush, but a confident, encroaching stride. That's what scared me. Margot said you'd be difficult, he said, lifting a handheld radio. I'm offering you one chance to cooperate or I escalate. Behind me, Juno tried to growl, producing only a pained whimper. That sound was the breaking point. I reached back, drew my sidearm from its holster, and brought it up in one smooth motion. The muzzle centered on his chest, steady. Stop, I commanded. Do not move. His eyes dropped to the gun. For the first time, his confidence wavered. You can't do that, he said, but the words lacked force. I'm not asking, I replied. I am telling you to leave my property. He let out a short, harsh laugh. You country types never do. He took another step. That was his final error. I fired. Twice. Controlled, aimed, center mass. There was no rage, only the grim resolution of defending what was mine. He crumbled to the dirt beside the very fence he'd violated. The radio clattered away. The dark vest began to bloom with a deeper shade. Juno flinched at the sound, but then went still. I kept my weapon trained on him as I backed up to her, my free hand finding her neck. I pulled out my phone. 911. I need sheriffs and an ambulance. Armed trespasser shot on my property. My dog is injured. I gave the address. Sirens echoed in the distance before I even hung up. Red and blue lights soon crested the hill. Neighbors gathered at the HOA fence line, phones raised. I laid my pistol on the ground, stepped back, and raised my hands as the first cruiser skidded to a halt. Deputies swarmed. Orders were shouted. The man on the ground groaned, attempting to move. I looked from Juno to the fence post, to the sign hanging there, clear as day, and I knew this was just the beginning. Margot's scheme was about to unravel on top of her. If you're gripped by this story of defense and consequence, make sure you're subscribed to Trending Tales Pulse. The aftermath is where the true justice unfolds. The deputies moved with precision. 2 secured the downed man, now moaning in cuffs. Another rushed to Juno, calling for an animal ambulance as he applied pressure to her wound. The fake badge and credentials were pulled from the vest, a pathetic laminate card with a photocopied seal. Criminal impersonation of an officer, one deputy muttered, shaking his head. An ambulance took the trespasser away, under guard, alive but under arrest. Margot didn't appear immediately, but when she did, it was a performance. She arrived in a sleek SUV, clipboard in hand, already shouting about liability and unnecessary violence. Then she saw the array of real badges, the body cameras, the stern faces of the county investigators. Her bluster died in her throat. She tried to lie. She claimed she'd only requested a courtesy inspection, that she never authorized force, that she didn't know he'd crossed the fence. It lasted less than a minute. A deputy held up a tablet. He read her emails aloud. The messages directing the security consultant to handle the dog situation. The text describing Juno as a vicious threat. The instruction, if he resists, document it for the lawsuit. Margot went pale. By dawn, she was in handcuffs in the back of a squad car. The investigation was thorough and damning. The man she hired was charged with felony trespass, aggravated animal cruelty, assault, and criminal impersonation of an officer. After recovering from his wounds, he accepted a plea deal. 15 years, no parole. Margot fought it. She lost. She was convicted of conspiracy, solicitation of a crime, and fraud. The judge sentenced her to 18 years in state prison. The civil judgment that followed seized her home and assets to pay for damages and legal fees. The Cedar Grove Estates HOA disbanded within weeks. New county-approved rules were written, and my ranch's exclusion was made permanent and ironclad. Juno recovered. She has a scar and a slight limp, but her spirit is unbroken. She still patrols the boundary, ever watchful. The fence still stands. The sign remains, and no one has ever tested it again. Some lines are drawn for a reason. Cross them, and you define the consequences. What would you have done in that moment, standing on your land with your injured companion? The law is clear, but the choice is profound. If you found this story compelling, show your support. Give this video a like, and for more narratives exploring the hard lines of justice and defense, stay with us here on Trending Tales Pulse. A posted fence isn't a suggestion. It's the last warning you'll get.